It is the destiny of stars to collapse. Of the thousands of stars you see when you look up at the night sky, every one of them is living in an interval between two collapses. An initial collapse of a dark interstellar gas cloud to form the star, and a final collapse of the luminous star on the way to its ultimate fate. Gravity makes stars contract unless some other force intervenes. The sun is an immense ball of radiating hydrogen. The hot gas in its interior tries to make the sun expand. The gravity tries to make the sun contract. And the present state of the sun is the balance of these two forces, an equilibrium between gravity and nuclear fire. In this long middle age between collapses, the stars steadily shine. But when the nuclear fuel is exhausted, the interior cools, the pressure is no longer enough to support its outer layers, and the initial collapse resumes. There are three ways that stars die. Their fates are predestined. Everything depends on their initial mass. A typical star with a mass like the sun will one day continue its collapse until its density becomes very high, and then the contraction is stopped by the mutual repulsion of the overcrowded electrons in its interior. A collapsing star twice as massive as the sun isn't stopped by the electron pressure, and it goes on falling in on itself until nuclear forces come into play, and they hold up the weight of the star. But a collapsing star three times as massive as the sun isn't stopped even by nuclear forces. There's no force known that can withstand this enormous compression. And such a star has an astonishing destiny. It continues to collapse until it vanishes utterly. So every star is characterized by the force that holds it up against gravity. A star that's supported by the gas pressure is a normal run-of-the-mill star like the sun. A collapsed star that's held up by electron forces is called a white dwarf. It's a sun shrunk to the size of the Earth. A collapsed star supported by nuclear forces is called a neutron star. It's a sun shrunk to the size of a city. And a star so massive that in its final collapse it disappears altogether is called a black hole. It's a sun with no size at all. But on their ways to their separate fates, all stars experience a premonition of death. Before the final gravitational collapse, the star shudders and briefly swells into some grotesque parody of itself. With its last gasp, it becomes a red giant.